Hey piano people! In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make hand coordination easy forever. The best thing about this video is that there's only one thing that you need to start doing today in order to solve all of your hand coordination problems. And this one thing isn't going to take a lot of additional time. It's really just going to take some additional brain power. Now make sure that you stick around to the end of the tutorial because I'm going to share this one thing with you, but then I'm also going to give you 2 ways to practice so that you can actually implement this into your routine regardless of your level or what kind of music you're playing. Hey there, piano people. I'm Ashley. Welcome to Ashley Young Music Studio, where I am all about learning how to practice smarter, not harder. The one thing that you can do to make hand coordination easy forever is to count out loud. Now don't turn the video off. After the next 2 minutes, I promise that you are going to be fully on the same page with me and you are going to agree that counting out loud is insanely important for hand coordination. And then I'm going to give you those 2 ways to practice it, even if the idea terrifies you, even if you've tried it in the past and you've never had success with it. Just stick around, I promise we'll get you there. So the first thing that you need to know is that counting out loud is not just about rhythm. We're going to talk about this in 2 different contexts. The first context I'm going to give you is the context of learning a piece. And the second context we'll talk about is the context of playing a piece from the beginning to the end without stopping. Before we dive into each of these contexts, I want to let you know that enrollment for Casual the Confident Piano Player is open, and it only opens twice a year. Casual the Confident Piano Player is the best part about what I do on a daily basis. It is my program for adult piano players who want to transform the way that they practice to unveil the music inside of you. You get to meet with me in Zoom for live classes where I listen to you play, I give you feedback, you get access to the Confidence Roadmap, which helps you learn a piece from the ground up with confidence and musicality, and you get so much more. Enrollment is only open for a couple more days, so make sure you check out the link in the description below and use the little chat bot at the bottom right hand of the screen if you need to ask me any questions. I would love to have you inside the program. So in the context of learning a piece, I want you to think about the fact that learning a piece over the course of several months is an evolution. When you first start out learning the piece, you're playing really slowly. You might be playing one hand at a time and you're drilling small sections over and over if you're practicing correctly. And then later down the road, after you've been working on the piece for several weeks or several months, the tempo has likely increased and you're focusing on different problems than you were in the very beginning stages of learning the piece. Now, this evolution that occurs is a natural part of the learning process, right? Ideally, if you're practicing correctly, you are improving. And so the piece is almost morphing over time. The way that you play it is changing and evolving based on your skill level with the piece as you make progress. But this natural evolution that takes place can be really confusing to your brain. I want you to think about how many times you've been learning a piece and you play it one way in the beginning, and then as you try to start to get it to those later stages where maybe you're trying to play it a little bit faster, or maybe you're trying to add musicality or play through the piece beginning to end, you have like all of these mistakes that creep in that weren't there in the beginning. Because at every stage when you're learning a piece, you're playing it slightly differently. And if you're counting out loud, the counting and the rhythm becomes the one common thread that ties that entire evolution together and makes it this like seamless package that fits. And if you're counting out loud, it doesn't matter if you're playing it slowly in the beginning, or if you're playing it like mid-tempo in the middle stages, or if you're playing it up to performance tempo at the end, you're gonna have a common thread that ties everything together throughout that learning process. In the learning process, counting out loud actually allows you to commit everything that you're doing to the deeper layers of memory. And this is really helpful regardless of if you want to memorize the piece or not. Because essentially it allows your brain to organize the information in a way that it can recall it quickly. And that's what playing the piano is all about. You need to be able to recall a lot of information really quickly and give clear directions to your hands about where they need to be on the piano and when they need to be there. Now, let's take this a little bit deeper with example number 2, the context of playing a piece from beginning to end without stopping. If you weren't counting out loud when you were learning the piece, then when you go to play through the piece from beginning to end, basically your brain is trying to make sense of a lot of jumbled information. And it's trying to recall that disorganized information to give your hands clear signals about where they need to be and when they need to be there. But this isn't really possible if you weren't counting out loud when you were learning the piece, because the information, yes, it's in your brain, but it's in your brain in a really disorganized way. There wasn't that common thread throughout the learning process, and so your brain has no ability to recall the information in an organized way to give clear directions to your hands. And this is why your hands get apart. It's not that you need more technical exercises. It's not that you need to start practicing hand coordination exercises. It's that you need to count out loud so that your brain can coordinate the hands together with one common thread that gives all of that information that your brain is trying to process structure and organization. So now that we're on the same page about the backstory of why counting out loud is so essential in the learning process and when you're trying to play through a piece, let's talk about the way that you can practice counting out loud so that you can really benefit from the practice. Before I do that, I want to let you know, if you haven't seen the replay of Speed Reader, which is a free sight reading class that I taught several months back, you're going to want to grab that link in the description and make sure that you sign up to get that replay delivered to your inbox. I go way deeper on counting out loud and on the process of learning a piece and sight reading specifically and how that works in your brain and your hands. And you're gonna learn a ton in that class replay. Okay, so the first way that you can practice counting out loud, especially if you've had trouble with it in the past before, is to practice rhythm as its own skill set for a couple of minutes during each practice session. You'll do this using a book like Rhythmic Training by Robert Starr, and just working on a book like that that's filled with rhythm exercises for just a couple of minutes during each practice session is going to allow you to build up the skill set of counting out loud and the skill set of being able to process and understand rhythms really quickly alongside the other things that you're doing in your piano practice. If you're liking and learning from this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on any of the daily content I release, and copy the link and share it with a friend so that they too can make piano hand coordination easy. The second way that you can practice to make counting out loud easier, especially if it's something that you haven't had success with in the past, is to teach yourself counting out loud, kind of like you would teach a toddler a new concept. Oftentimes when I tell people that they need to count out loud, they go immediately to try to counting out loud in like the most challenging piece that they are working on. And this isn't going to work because counting out loud is a skill set. You have to learn how to do it. It actually takes a lot of brain power to count out loud while you are doing other things. Because like we talked about earlier on in the video, it's taking a lot of information in your brain and it's organizing it and it's creating structure. But if you haven't done that before, your brain is kind of used to having that disorganized information in it. And all of a sudden, when you try to create structure, it's going to feel like the hamster fell off the wheel in your brain, and it might feel like your brain is exploding a little bit. So when I say teach yourself how to count out loud like you were teaching a toddler a new skill set, what I mean is go really slow. Be very patient with yourself and give yourself really tiny goals so that you can have really big wins during every single practice session. Maybe just work on one measure in a piece of music that you're working on and just try to learn how to count out loud that one measure. Allow yourself to just start there. Give yourself as much time as it takes. And then when that one measure feels easy, chances are the second measure that you try to count out loud is going to feel a little bit easier. Some tips that will help you do this will be to write the counting in the measures, like actually on your sheet music, to maybe clap and count just the right hand by itself. Then maybe just clap and count the left hand by itself, and then you can work on putting them together. And you can do all of this before you even try to count out loud and play at the same time. So allow yourself to go slow, work on small sections, and make sure that you are going easy on yourself because you're learning a new skill set. If you want some more tips on how to practice this, I'm gonna link on the end screen a video that I did that's all about that book I mentioned, Rhythmic Training by Robert Starr, where I go through and I tell you exactly what that book is about and how to use it in your practice, and you can catch that video right here.